The next day, the council gathered again. This time, they wanted proof. They wanted to understand how humans really hunted, how a species with no claws had defeated creatures with every natural advantage. Jiwoo stood at the center of the Great Hall. She was a scientist from Earth, an expert in human evolution. Behind her, massive screens came to life. They showed Earth as it was millions of years ago. "I will show you how humans became apex predators," Jiwoo said. Her voice was clear and calm. "But first, you need to understand what we were." The screens showed early humans walking across a hot grassland. They looked small and weak. Their skin had no scales or armor. Their teeth were flat and dull. They had no venom glands, no sharp claws, no thick fur for protection. A Vrax warrior named Dekro laughed from his seat. "These are your ancestors. They look like prey animals, like something I would eat for breakfast." Jiwoo didn't look offended. "You're right. In a direct fight, any predator could kill an early human easily. A lion could crush our skulls with one bite. A bear could break our backs with one swipe. We were slow compared to hunting cats. We were weak compared to apes. We couldn't climb as well, swim as well, or see as well as other animals." "Then how did you survive even one generation?" asked a Nethril elder. "Your young must have been eaten constantly." "Many were," Jiwoo admitted. "But we had advantages that weren't obvious. Advantages that took time to show their power." She touched a control, and the image changed. Now the screen showed a human running. Not sprinting, but jogging at a steady pace. Behind the human, a deer ran much faster. It quickly left the human far behind. "We couldn't outrun our prey," Jiwoo explained. "But we didn't need to. Watch." The image continued. The deer stopped after a few minutes, panting heavily. It stood in the shade of a tree trying to cool down. The human kept coming. The human moved slower but never stopped. When the deer saw the human again, it ran. Again it was faster. Again it got away. This happened again and again. The deer ran and stopped. The human never stopped. Hours passed in the recording. The sun moved across the sky. The deer's runs got shorter. Its stops got longer. It began to stumble. Finally, it couldn't run anymore. It collapsed in the grass. The human walked up to it and finished it with a simple stone blade. The hall was quiet. The aliens watched with confusion and growing understanding. "This is persistence hunting," Jiwoo said. "Humans are the best endurance runners in the animal kingdom. We can run for hours, even days, without stopping. We have sweat glands all over our bodies. We cool ourselves as we run. Most animals can only cool down by panting, which they can't do while running. We chased prey until they died of exhaustion." Thexal leaned forward. "That seems inefficient. Why not just be faster?" "Because fast animals tire quickly," Jiwoo replied. "A cheetah can sprint faster than anything on land, but it can only sprint for seconds before it overheats. Humans can maintain a steady pace for hours. In a short race, we lose. In a long race, we always win." The screen changed again. Now it showed a group of humans working together. They used hand signals and spoke to each other. They spread out in a line and moved through the forest. They carried spears made from wood and stone. "But we didn't just use endurance," Jiwoo continued. "We used cooperation and planning. Watch this." The humans in the recording spotted a group of large animals. The animals were much bigger and stronger than any human. But the humans didn't charge in. Instead, they circled around. Half the group hid near a narrow valley. The other half made noise and waved their arms. The animals got scared and ran toward the valley. The hidden humans waited with their spears ready. When the animals ran past, the humans attacked from the sides. The animals couldn't fight back because they were trapped and confused. "We used tactics," Jiwoo said. "We made plans. We thought about what the animals would do and prepared for it. No other predator on Earth could do this at our level." A young Korum warrior stood up. "But tactics require weapons. You keep showing us weapons. What about your natural abilities? What did your body give you?" Jiwoo smiled. "Our bodies gave us the perfect weapon. Our hands." She held up her own hand, spreading the fingers. We have thumbs that oppose our other fingers. This lets us grip things precisely. We can make and use tools better than any other species on Earth. Our hands gave us weapons. They gave us the ability to change our environment. The screen showed humans shaping stones, making fire, building shelters, weaving baskets, and creating pottery. Their hands never stopped working. They never stopped making things. But the most important thing our bodies gave us was our brain, Jiwoo added. She pointed to her head. The human brain is expensive. It uses 20% of our energy, even though it's only 2% of our body weight. Evolution wouldn't give us such an expensive organ unless it was worth it. And it was worth it because our brain let us outthink every other creature. Another image appeared. It showed a human watching a lion from a distance. The human made marks in the dirt, tracking the lion's movements. Over days, the human learned the lion's patterns. Where it hunted, when it slept, where it drank water. Then the human set a trap on the lion's path. We studied our enemies, Jiwoo said. We learned from them. If a tactic didn't work, we tried something else. We adapted faster than any other species. When the climate changed and food became scarce, other predators died. We found new food sources, we invented new tools, we migrated to new lands. Cormath stood from his seat. He looked troubled. You speak of hunting animals, dumb beasts, but what about intelligent predators? Species like us who can think and plan. Jiwoo nodded as if expecting the question. For intelligent species, we had a different strategy. We turned them into allies. The screen showed wolves again. But this time, the story was longer and more detailed. It showed early humans leaving food scraps near their camps. Wolves came to eat the scraps. At first, the humans and wolves stayed away from each other, but over time, they got closer. The wolves learned that humans meant food and safety. The Gi humans learned that wolves could warn them about danger and help them hunt. Generations passed in the recording. The wolves changed. They became smaller and less aggressive. Their ears became floppy. Their tails began to wag. They became dogs. The dogs learned to understand human gestures and words. They bonded with human families. They protected human children. They helped humans hunt other animals. This is domestication, Jiwoo explained. Over thousands of years, we changed wolves into dogs. We bred them to be loyal, friendly, and useful. We did the same thing with other animals. Wild horses became transportation. Wild cattle became food sources. Wild cats became pest control. We took dangerous or useful animals and made them part of human civilization. An old Nethril made a disgusted sound. You changed them genetically? Forced them to evolve according to your needs? We guided their evolution, Jiwoo corrected. We selected which animals bred and which didn't. The animals that were friendly and useful had more offspring. Over time, entire species changed to fit human needs. Some people call this cruel. We call it partnership. Dogs are happy with humans. Horses live longer under human care than in the wild. The domesticated animals got protection and food. We got their abilities. She paused and looked around the hall. But here's what you need to understand. This wasn't just about making animals serve us. This was about humans reshaping the natural world. We didn't just adapt to our environment like other species. We changed the environment to suit us. The screen showed humans cutting down forests to make farms. They diverted rivers to water crops. They built walls to keep out predators. They created entire ecosystems that existed only because humans maintained them. We terraformed our own planet, Jiwoo said. Long before we had technology, we were changing Earth to make it more suitable for human life. We spread plants we liked and killed plants we didn't. We protected animals we found useful and hunted animals we found dangerous. We didn't just live in nature, we controlled it. Dekro shook his head. This is the thinking of prey. Real predators don't need to change the world. They conquer it as it is. Jiwoo turned to face him directly. And that's why you'll never understand us. You think being a predator means having sharp teeth and strong muscles. But that's not what made humans apex predators. We became apex predators because we refused to play by nature's rules. She gestured to the screens, which now showed modern Earth. Cities covered continents. Farms stretched across vast areas. Domesticated animals outnumbered wild ones. We didn't just reach the top of the food chain. We rewrote what the food chain means. On Earth, humans decide which species live and which die. We bring extinct species back to life through cloning. We create new species through genetic engineering. We control the population of every major animal. The aliens shifted in their seats. Some looked impressed, others looked disturbed. You asked how prey animals became apex predators, Jiwoo concluded. The answer is simple. We were never prey. We were the most dangerous thing our planet ever produced. We just didn't look like it at first. 3 months after the conference ended, Cormath made a decision. He had talked with other Vrax leaders. They had discussed the humans and their claims. The conclusion was clear in Cormath's mind. Humans were dangerous, but they were still weak. Their bodies were soft. They had no natural weapons. They relied on tools and tricks. The Vrax Empire would show the galaxy what real predators could do. They would invade Earth and prove that physical might still ruled the universe. 200 Vrax warships appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. Their hulls were dark and covered in weapons. Each ship carried thousands of warriors, each one bred for combat. The Vrax had never lost a war. They didn't expect to start now. Cormath broadcast a message to Earth. Humans, you have insulted the natural order. You claim to be apex predators, but you are weak creatures who hide behind machines. We will show you what true predators are. Surrender now, or we will take your planet by force. On Earth, in the orbital defense station, Commander Jae-hee watched the Vrax fleet on her screens. She was a military officer trained for moments like this. Around her, other humans worked at their stations, preparing for war. They have superior numbers, reported So-jin, a young analyst. Their ships are heavily armored. Each warrior is strong enough to tear through steel with their bare hands. Our soldiers can't match them in direct combat. Jae-hee nodded calmly. Then we won't fight them directly. Send the order to all ground forces. Implement protocol persistence. So-jin looked confused. But Commander, that protocol is designed for fighting stronger enemies. It involves retreating, hiding, and— Exactly, Jae-hee interrupted. The Vrax think this will be a traditional war. They're wrong. Send the order. The Vrax ships descended toward Earth's surface. Cormath chose the landing zones carefully. He picked forests and mountains, places where human vehicles would have trouble moving. He wanted to fight on terrain that favored the Vrax physical abilities. The first landing happened in the thick forests of North America. Thousands of Vrax warriors emerged from their ships. Each one stood over 2 meters tall. Their red skin was tough enough to stop small bullets. Their claws could cut through wood and stone. They carried weapons, but they didn't really need them. Their bodies were weapons. Move forward, Cormath ordered. Find the human settlements and eliminate all resistance. The Vrax forces advanced through the forest in tight groups. They expected humans to meet them with armies and machines. They expected a battle. Instead, they found nothing. The forest was empty. The nearby human towns were abandoned. No one came to fight them. Where are they? Dekro asked, standing next to Cormath. This is their planet. Why don't they defend it? They're hiding, Cormath said. Like prey animals. We'll flush them out. But as the Vrax moved deeper into the forest, strange things started happening. Warriors in the back of the formation simply disappeared. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. No sound, no warning, just gone. Cormath ordered the troops to stay close together, but it didn't help. More warriors vanished. Finally, a Vrax scout found one of the missing warriors. He was hanging from a tree, killed by a single shot to the head. The shot had come from somewhere high above, but there was no one there now. They're using snipers, Dekro realized. Shooting from long range and then moving. Cormath snarled. Cowards. Real warriors fight face to face. More days passed. The Vrax couldn't find the human forces, but the humans found them constantly. Small groups of soldiers appeared, fired weapons, and disappeared before the Vrax could respond. They used the trees for cover. They wore clothing that made them blend into the forest. They set traps that exploded when Vrax walked over them. At night, it got worse. Humans could see in the dark using special devices. The Vrax had excellent eyesight, but not in complete darkness. Human teams struck at night, destroying supplies and killing guards, then vanishing before dawn. This isn't war, Cormath raged. This is pest control. They're acting like insects, not soldiers. An old Vrax commander named Tekvar spoke up. Perhaps that's the point. They're not fighting the war we want to fight. They're fighting the war they can win. Cormath refused to listen. He sent more troops into the forests. He spread his forces across wider areas to prevent the hit-and-run attacks. This was a mistake the humans had been watching. They had been learning. They knew where every Vrax unit was. They knew the Vrax patterns of movement. And now that the Vrax were spread thin, the humans struck harder. Lieutenant Minho commanded a drone squadron. He sat in a bunker deep underground, watching screens that showed the battlefield. His fingers moved across controls, directing hundreds of small flying machines. "Target the supply convoy," he ordered. "Avoid the main warrior groups. Hit them where it hurts." The drones were small, barely larger than a human hand. The Vrax couldn't see them coming. They flew fast and low below the Vrax sensors. When they reached the supply convoy, they attacked. Some drones carried small explosives. Others carried cameras to record the damage. The explosions destroyed food supplies, ammunition, and medical equipment. The Vrax warriors weren't hurt, but now they had no supplies. They would have to retreat or starve. Cormath received the report with growing anger. How many drones did they use? "Hundreds," came the answer. "Maybe thousands. They're too small and too many to stop. Then shoot them all down." "We're trying, sir. But they're fast. And there are so many. We destroy 10 and 20 more appear." This was another human advantage that the Vrax hadn't understood. Humans built machines that did their fighting for them. They didn't need to risk their own lives when a machine could do the job. The Vrax thought this was cowardly. But cowardly or not, it was working. In orbit above Earth, Captain Sumin commanded a small fleet of human ships. Her fleet was outnumbered 5-1. The Vrax ships were bigger and stronger. But Sumin had studied the recordings of the Vrax fleet. She had watched how they moved, how they fought, what patterns they followed. "They fight like ancient warriors," she told her crew. "They value honor in direct combat. They'll come straight at us, expecting us to do the same. So what do?" asked her second-in-command. "We cheat," Sumin said with a small smile. "Target their command ship. All weapons. Everything we have, and that's suicide. We'll have to get close, and their other ships will destroy us. Some of us will die," Sumin agreed. "But the mission matters more than individual survival. That's something the Vrax don't understand. They fight for personal glory. We fight for the species." The human ships charged toward the Vrax fleet. The Vrax ships moved to intercept, confident in their superior firepower. They expected a traditional space battle. Instead, the human ships did something unexpected. 3 human vessels rammed directly into the Vrax command ship. They didn't try to escape. They just crashed into the larger ship at full speed, their reactors set to explode on impact. The command ship broke apart. Cormath's second-in-command died in the explosion. The Vrax fleet fell into confusion without clear orders. In those few minutes of chaos, the other human ships struck hard. They targeted weapons and engines, crippling Vrax vessels. Then they retreated before the Vrax could organize a response. The Vrax won the battle. They destroyed or damaged many human ships, but they had lost their command ship and several others. The humans had traded losses they could afford for damage the Vrax couldn't. "They fight like they're already dead," a Vrax admiral told Cormath. "They sacrifice themselves without hesitation. This is madness, but it wasn't madness. It was calculation." Humans understood something the Vrax didn't. Sometimes the only way to win was to be willing to lose. Sometimes survival meant sacrifice. On the ground, the war continued. Weeks passed. The Vrax controlled the landing zones, but they couldn't expand their territory. Every time they tried to move forward, humans attacked their supply lines. Every time they tried to build a base, humans destroyed it with long-range weapons. The Vrax were stronger. They were better fighters, but they were losing. Cormath stood in his command center, looking at maps of the battle zones. Red marks showed Vrax positions. They were like islands in a sea of human territory, surrounded, cut off, running low on supplies. "We have superior forces," Cormath said slowly. "We have superior warriors." "How are we losing?" Tekvar, the old commander, answered honestly. "Because we're fighting their war, not ours. We came here expecting a battle of strength. They're giving us a battle of endurance. And humans are very, very good at endurance." Cormath's claws scraped against the table. "Then we'll adapt. We'll learn their tactics and use them against them." "With respect, Commander," Tekvar said. "They've had thousands of years to perfect these tactics. We've had weeks. They're always 3 steps ahead of us. They know what we'll do before we do it. That's impossible, is it? They told us at the conference. They survived by outthinking their enemies, by studying them, learning their patterns, and exploiting their weaknesses. That's what they're doing to us right now. Cormath looked at the map again. For the first time since the invasion began, he felt something unfamiliar. Doubt. The humans weren't fighting like prey. They weren't even fighting like predators. They were fighting like something else entirely. Something patient and relentless and utterly willing to pay any price for victory. The war entered its 4th month. The Vraks still held their landing zones, but those zones had become prisons. No supplies could reach them safely. Every transport ship that tried to land faced attacks from missiles and drones. Every convoy that tried to move supplies on the ground got ambushed. Cormath looked at the reports and felt something he had never experienced before. Hunger. Real hunger. The Vraks were running out of food. They were warriors, built to fight and kill, but they needed to eat, and the humans made sure they couldn't. They're starving us, Dekro said bitterly. Not fighting us. Starving us. In the forests, a young Vraks warrior named Rekman sat with his squad. They had been in the same position for 3 days. They had orders to hold this location and wait for supplies, but no supplies came. Rekman's stomach hurt. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. The forest around them was full of animals, but the Vraks didn't know how to hunt quietly. Every time they tried, humans heard them and attacked. We're predators, Rekman said to himself. We should be able to feed ourselves. But the truth was more complicated. The Vraks had evolved to be hunters on their home world, where prey was plentiful and slow. Here on Earth, they were in an unfamiliar environment. They didn't know which plants were safe to eat. They didn't know where to find water. They didn't know how to move silently through these forests. The humans knew all of this. This was their planet. They had thousands of years of experience hunting and surviving here. That knowledge was now a weapon. Sergeant Young-Soo led a small team of human soldiers through the same forest. They moved quietly, their boots making almost no sound. They wore clothing that matched the colors of the forest. They carried light weapons that they could fire and move quickly. Young-Soo had been a hunter before he joined the military. He knew these woods. He could read tracks in the dirt and see signs of passage that others missed. He knew the Vraks were nearby before he saw them. He could smell them. The Vraks had a distinctive scent, and they made no effort to hide it. There, Young-Soo whispered, pointing. Through the trees, he could see the Vrak squad. They looked tired and hungry. They sat in a defensive circle, watching for attacks. Young-Soo's team didn't attack. They just watched. They marked the position and moved on. This information would be sent to commanders who would decide what to do with it. Maybe they would send drones. Maybe they would send artillery. Maybe they would do nothing and just let the Vraks sit there and get hungrier. This was psychological warfare. The Vraks knew humans were out there watching them, but they couldn't see them or fight them. It wore down their nerves. It made them tired and paranoid. They couldn't sleep well because they never knew when an attack would come. After a week without food, Cormath made a difficult decision. We need to retreat. Pull our forces back to the landing zones. Consolidate our position, Tekvar nodded. I agree. We can't maintain these forward positions without supplies. Better to fall back and defend what we have. But retreating proved almost impossible. When Vrak's forces tried to move, humans attacked them from all sides. The warriors fought bravely, but they were weak from hunger and exhaustion. Many died in the retreats. Those who made it back to the landing zones found them under constant bombardment from human artillery. In another part of Earth, a different kind of battle was happening. Engineer Dae-jung stood on a hillside watching as a dam was destroyed. The dam had been holding back a river. Now the water rushed free, flooding the valley below. A Vrak's base sat in that valley. Within hours it would be underwater. Is everyone evacuated from the villages downstream? Dae-jung asked. Yes, sir, replied his assistant. All human civilians were moved out 3 days ago. And the Vraks? They received warning an hour ago. If they chose to ignore it, that's their decision. Dae-jung watched the water rushing down. He felt no joy in this. War was ugly and brutal. But if the Vraks wanted to invade Earth, they would learn what it meant to fight a species that controlled their entire planet. Humans could reshape the landscape itself as a weapon. This happened in multiple locations. Humans diverted rivers, triggered avalanches, even set forest fires to trap Vrak's forces. The Vraks were excellent warriors, but they couldn't fight against the planet itself. On the orbital defense station, Commander Jae-hee reviewed the latest intelligence. The Vraks were suffering. Their casualty rates were climbing. But they refused to surrender. They were predators, and predators didn't give up easily. They're going to do something desperate, so Jin predicted. When cornered, predators become most dangerous. She was right. Cormath called a meeting of all his remaining commanders. We've been fighting their war, he said. We've let them dictate the terms of battle. That ends now. We're going to do what we do best. We're going to hunt. The Vraks changed tactics. Instead of trying to hold territory or move supplies, they went on the offensive. Small groups of warriors began raiding human settlements. They moved fast, hit hard, and disappeared before heavy human forces could respond. This worked better. The Vraks were finally using their natural advantages, their strength, their speed, their killing instincts. They caused significant damage to human settlements. They killed civilians. But this also revealed a side of humanity the Vraks hadn't seen yet. When the first reports of civilian casualties came in, something changed in the human military. The restraint they had been showing disappeared. The calculated, measured approach to warfare transformed into something colder and more absolute. Lieutenant Minho received new orders. Eliminate all Vraks forces within your operational area. No prisoners unless they actively surrender. Maximum force authorized. Minho understood what this meant. Humans had been fighting carefully, trying to minimize casualties on both sides. But when you kill human civilians, you remove that mercy. You remind humans why they became apex predators in the first place. The drone strikes intensified. Now they didn't just target supplies and equipment. They targeted any Vrak soldier who could be found. The small, annoying drones were replaced with larger, deadlier ones. These carried weapons that could punch through Vrak's armor. Captain Sumin received similar orders in space. She was authorized to use weapons she had been holding in reserve. Human ships began firing missiles that split into dozens of smaller missiles. These swarmed Vrak's vessels, overwhelming their defenses through sheer numbers. The Vraks fought back fiercely. They were still dangerous. They still killed many humans. But the mathematics of the war had shifted. For every human casualty, multiple Vraks died. The humans had more soldiers, more weapons, more resources. And now they had motivation that went beyond military strategy. In one forest clearing, a Vrak's raiding party found themselves surrounded. They had attacked a small human town and were retreating. But human forces had predicted their escape route and set a trap. Sergeant Young Su was there with his team. But he wasn't alone this time. 3 full companies of soldiers had been deployed. Armored vehicles, heavy weapons, air support. The Vrak's raiders stood no chance. Surrender and you'll be treated as prisoners of war. Young Su broadcast in the Vrak's language. Fight and you'll die here. The Vrak's warriors looked at each other. They were proud predators. Surrendering felt like betrayal of everything they were, but they were also intelligent. They could see they were beaten. One by one, they laid down their weapons. This was the first time Vrak's warriors had surrendered in the entire war. When Cormath heard about the surrender, he felt a mixture of shame and relief. Shame that his warriors had given up, relief that some had survived. The war was breaking the Vraks in ways physical combat never could. In his command center, Cormath looked at his most trusted advisor. Tell me honestly, Tekvar, can we win this war? The old commander was quiet for a long moment. No, he finally said. We can kill many humans. We can destroy their cities. But we cannot defeat them. They have too many advantages on their own world, and they're willing to accept any level of casualties to win. We're not. What do you mean? The humans lost a city last week to one of our raids. 20,000 civilians dead. And do you know what their leaders said? They called it acceptable losses and continued the war. They're willing to lose cities, even countries, as long as humanity survives. Tekvar looked tired. We're not like that. We value our warriors. We don't see them as expendable. But humans see everyone as expendable if the cause is great enough. Cormath knew it was true. He had seen it in space, where human ships rammed his vessels without hesitation. He had seen it on the ground, where human soldiers fought to the death to buy their comrades time to escape. Humans understood sacrifice in a way the Vraks didn't. There's something else, Tekvar continued. The humans are studying us. Every battle, every engagement, they learn more. They know our tactics now. They know how we think, but we still don't understand them. They keep surprising us. It's like fighting an enemy who can read your mind. Cormath closed his eyes. Because they can, in a way. They're persistence hunters. They track prey for days, learning every habit, every pattern. They're doing that to us. We're not fighting them. We're being hunted by them. The realization was bitter. The Vrax had come to Earth expecting to be the hunters. Instead, they had become the prey. And humans were very, very good at hunting prey. 6 months after the invasion began, Cormath stood in what remained of his command center. The building had been hit by human artillery 3 times. Parts of the ceiling had collapsed. The screens that once showed battle maps were mostly dark now. Only a few still worked. Around him, the last of his senior commanders waited. They all looked tired. Their armor was damaged. Their claws were dull. Many had wounds that hadn't healed properly because medical supplies had run out weeks ago. "How many warriors do we have left?" Cormath asked quietly. Tekvar checked a damaged data pad. 12,000. Maybe less. Down from the 200,000 we started with. 12,000. Out of 200,000. The numbers were devastating, and those who survived were hungry, exhausted and demoralized. They were still dangerous, still capable of fighting, but they had no hope of victory. "The humans are offering terms," Tekvar continued. "They'll accept our surrender. They promise to treat prisoners according to galactic law. They'll even provide medical care and food." Cormath laughed bitterly. 6 months ago, I would have called such offers the pleading of weaklings. Now I see it for what it is. Mercy from the victors. A transport ship appeared on the one working screen. It was human-made, small and unarmed. It descended toward the Vrax position. Cormath gave orders not to fire. He was done fighting. The ship landed in the center of the Vrax base. A door opened and a single human stepped out. It was Tae Min, the same diplomat Cormath had met at the conference. He walked calmly through the crowd of Vrax warriors, showing no fear. Cormath met him at the entrance to the command center. "You came alone?" "I don't need an army," Tae Min replied. "This war is over. You know it, I know it. Let's end it properly." They walked inside together. Tae Min looked at the damaged room, the exhausted commanders, the broken equipment. He showed no triumph, no pride. Just quiet observation. "I don't understand," Cormath said, sitting heavily in his chair. "We are stronger than you. Each of my warriors could kill 10 humans in direct combat. We have natural weapons, natural armor. How did you defeat us?" Tae Min pulled up a chair and sat across from the Vrax commander. "Because you're thinking about strength wrong. You think being an apex predator means being the biggest and strongest. It doesn't. It means being the species that controls the ecosystem." He gestured around the room. "You came to Earth expecting a battle of strength. But we didn't give you that battle. We gave you a battle of endurance, strategy, and adaptation. Things humans are very good at. Your tactics were dishonorable," Dekro said from the corner. "You hid and ran. You used tricks and traps. You poisoned water and destroyed food supplies. Real predators don't fight that way. Real predators fight to win," Tae Min corrected gently. "Honor is a luxury for species who have already won. Humans spent millions of years fighting for survival. We learned that the only rule that matters is survival. We didn't become apex predators by being honorable. We became apex predators by being effective." Cormath studied the human. "At the conference I thought you were weak, soft. I thought your species only survived because you got lucky. And now? Now I think you're the most dangerous species I've ever encountered. Not because you're strong, but because you're relentless. You never stopped. Even when we killed thousands of your people, you kept coming. Even when we destroyed your cities, you kept fighting. You're like a force of nature. Unstoppable." Tae Min nodded slowly. "That's a good description of humanity. We're persistence predators, remember? We don't win by being fast or strong. We win by never giving up, by outlasting our enemies, by being willing to endure any hardship for victory." A medical officer named Haiwan entered the room. She was human, carrying medical supplies. She looked at the wounded Vrax commanders with professional concern. "With your permission," she said to Cormath, "I'd like to treat your wounded." Cormath stared at her. "You want to help us? After everything we've done?" "You're not our enemies anymore," Haiwan replied simply. "You're defeated soldiers who need medical care. That's all that matters now." As Haiwan began treating the Vrax injuries, Tae Min continued talking. "This doesn't have to be the end of your people's story. Humans have a long history of turning enemies into allies. Like you did with wolves," Cormath said, remembering the presentation. "You domesticated them." "We partnered with them," Tae Min corrected. "Yes, we changed them. But they changed us too. Dogs taught humans about loyalty and unconditional love. They made us better. And we made them safer and more successful. There are billions of dogs on Earth now, far more than there ever were wolves. The partnership benefited both species. Tekvar leaned forward, interested despite himself. What are you suggesting? Join us, Taman said. Not as servants or slaves. As partners. The Vraks have strengths humans don't have. Your physical power, your natural armor, your ability to survive in harsh environments, combined with human technology and strategy, we could accomplish great things. You want us to work with you? After we invaded your world? We've forgiven worse, Taemin said with a slight smile. Besides, holding grudges is inefficient. We'd rather turn you into allies than waste resources guarding against you forever. Cormath was quiet for a long time. He thought about his warriors, the ones who survived and the ones who didn't. He thought about his home world, waiting for news of a glorious victory that would never come. He thought about the future. What would this partnership look like? He asked finally. Over the next hour, they discussed terms. The Vraks would officially surrender. Their warriors would be treated as prisoners, given medical care and adequate food. Those who wanted to return home could do so. Those who wanted to stay on Earth and learn from humans would be welcomed. In return, humans would help rebuild the Vraks' worlds. They would share technology and knowledge. They would establish trade and cultural exchange. The two species would become allies instead of enemies. There's one more thing, Taemin said. The Galactic Council needs to understand what happened here. They need to know that humans aren't prey, that we're not weak, that we're apex predators who earned our place through millions of years of evolution and survival. He pulled up images of the war, destroyed Vrak ships, defeated warriors, the statistics of casualties and losses. We'll present this at the next council meeting, not to humiliate you, but to educate the galaxy, so that no other species makes the same mistake. Cormath nodded. It was humiliating but necessary. Pride had led to this disaster. Maybe honesty could prevent future ones. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Council gathered again. The Great Hall was packed. Every species wanted to hear about the war between the Vraks and humans. The outcome had shocked everyone. Representative Sang-Hee stood before the assembly. She was human, a senior diplomat. Behind her, large screens showed footage from the war. The Vraks Empire invaded Earth 6 months ago, Sang-Hee began. They came with 200,000 warriors and 200 warships. They were confident in their physical superiority. They expected a quick victory. The screens showed Vraks warriors fighting human soldiers. The physical mismatch was obvious. Individual Vraks were much stronger. In direct combat, a Vraks warrior can defeat several human soldiers, Sang-Hee continued. Their claws can tear through armor. Their strength is incredible. By all traditional measures, they should have won. She paused. But they didn't, they lost. Not because humans were stronger, but because we fought smarter. We used tactics developed over thousands of years of hunting and warfare. We adapted to our enemy faster than they could adapt to us. We were willing to endure any sacrifice for victory. The screen showed the progression of the war, human tactics, Vraks defeats, the gradual erosion of the invasion force. Some of you might think this proves humans are dangerous, Sang-Hee said. You would be right. We are dangerous, but not in the way you think. We're not dangerous because we want to conquer the galaxy. We're dangerous because we refuse to be conquered. She gestured to where Cormath sat. The Vraks commander had been invited to attend. He looked uncomfortable but determined. The Vraks have agreed to peace terms, Sang-Hee explained. Many of their warriors have chosen to stay on Earth and learn from us. Some will return home and share what they've learned. We're turning our former enemies into our friends. This is what humans do. We don't just defeat our opponents. We transform them into partners. Thexal, the quorum delegate, clicked her mandibles. What you describe is not the behavior of prey or predator. It's something else. Something new. Exactly, Sang-Hee agreed. Humans are apex predators, but not in the traditional sense. We don't dominate through physical force alone. We dominate through persistence, adaptation, and social bonding. We reshape entire ecosystems, including social ecosystems, to benefit ourselves. She pulled up images of Earth. On our world, humans decide which species thrive and which struggle. We bring extinct species back to life. We create new ones through genetic engineering. We control populations, manage habitats, and guide evolution itself. That's what it means to be an apex predator in the human sense. A Nethril elder raised a tentacle. What does Earth want from the Galactic Council? Partnership, Sang-Hee replied immediately. We want to share our knowledge and learn from yours. We want to trade to exchange culture. Part 1. The meeting at the stars. The giant space station floated in the darkness between worlds. Inside, creatures from across the galaxy filled a massive hall. Some walked on 4 legs, others slithered or flew. All of them were predators from their home planets. Taemin stood near the back wall and watched. He was human from Earth. His people were new to this gathering of alien species. Around him, the other delegates talked and laughed. They showed off their natural weapons. Sharp claws scraped against metal floors. Long teeth gleamed under the lights. Some had scales harder than steel. Others had poison in their bodies that could kill in seconds. A creature approached Taemin. It stood twice as tall as any human. Its skin looked like red leather stretched over massive muscles. Its eyes were yellow and cold. 3 claws extended from each hand, each one as long as a knife. This was Cormath, a representative of the Vrak species. "You are the human," Cormath said. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "I have read about your world." "It confuses me," Taemin smiled politely. "How so?" Cormath tilted his head. His claws clicked together as he thought. "Your planet had many dangerous predators. Great cats with teeth like blades, massive bears, wolves that hunted in packs. Even your oceans had creatures that could swallow you whole." He leaned closer. "But you were not the strongest. You were not the fastest. You had no claws or fangs. Yet somehow you survived. You built cities. You traveled to space. How?" Other aliens nearby stopped talking. They turned to listen. A creature covered in black shells moved closer. This was Thexal from the Corum worlds. Her kind looked like giant insects with armor that could stop bullets. "Yes," Thexal said. Her voice buzzed like 1,000 bees. "This interests us all. In every world we know, only the apex predator becomes intelligent. Only the strongest survive long enough to build civilization. What killed off your planet's real predators? Did they all die in some disaster?" Taemin shook his head slowly. "They didn't die off. We killed them, or we changed them, or we made them work for us." The hall went quiet. Hundreds of alien eyes stared at the human. Cormath laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Impossible. You are making jokes. Prey animals do not hunt predators. That is not how nature works." "We weren't prey," Taemin said. His voice stayed calm and friendly. "We were never prey. We were something different. Something your worlds never produced." Another alien pushed forward through the crowd. It had gray skin that seemed to drip with moisture. This was a Nethril, a species whose saliva could melt flesh. "Explain yourself, human. What makes your species special? You have no natural weapons. I could kill you with one bite. Cormath could tear you apart with his hands. What protected you on your world?" Taemin looked around the hall. Every creature here came from the top of their food chain. They had evolved to be perfect killers. Their bodies were weapons. They had never known fear of other species. "Our brains protected us," Taemin said simply, "and our hands, and our ability to work together, and our refusal to give up." Cormath snorted. "Brains? Many species are intelligent. It takes more than thinking to survive against real predators." "You're right," Taemin agreed. "Thinking alone isn't enough." "But we didn't just think. We acted, we adapted, we invented." He pulled out a small device from his pocket. Images appeared in the air above it, showing scenes from Earth's past. The aliens watched as ancient humans appeared in the hologram. They looked weak and small. Around them, massive predators prowled. A great cat with fangs like daggers stalked through tall grass. A bear larger than any creature in the hall stood on its back legs and roared. "These animals were stronger than us," Taemin continued. "They could kill us easily in direct combat. So we didn't fight them directly." The image changed. It showed humans working together, their hands shaping stones into sharp points. "We made weapons. Spears that let us strike from a distance. Arrows that could fly through the air. Tools that made us more dangerous than our bodies ever could be." The image shifted again. Now it showed humans digging a deep pit and covering it with branches. A massive animal fell into the trap. "We used our brains to create traps. We thought about how animals moved, where they hunted, what they wanted. Then we used that knowledge against them." Thexal moved her head from side to side, a gesture of confusion. "But this only works on dumb animals. What about intelligent predators? Predators that think?" Taemin smiled. "We dealt with those too, but in a different way." The hologram showed a wolf approaching a human camp. But the humans didn't attack. They threw meat to the wolf. Over time, the images showed wolves living with humans. The wolves changed. They became smaller, friendlier. Their wild nature faded. We call this domestication, Taman explained. We took predators and turned them into companions. Over generations, we bred them to be loyal to us, to protect us, to hunt with us instead of hunting us. We did this with many species. Wolves became dogs. Wild horses became tame. Even fierce hunting birds learned to bring us food. The aliens stared at the images. None of them spoke. The concept seemed alien to them. They had conquered through strength alone. You changed other species? Cormath asked slowly. Made them serve you? We formed partnerships, Taman corrected. The animals got food and safety. We got their abilities. Dogs could smell things we couldn't. Horses could carry us farther than we could walk. Hawks could see prey from the sky. We didn't just survive alongside predators. We made them part of our society. A small creature with too many eyes spoke up from the crowd. But what about the predators you couldn't tame? The ones too dangerous or too large? The hologram changed one last time. It showed humans with fire, driving a herd of large animals toward a cliff. The animals fell to their deaths. Another image showed humans waiting by a waterhole, poisoning it with crushed plants. Predators that drank died within hours. We outthought them, Taman said. Every species has weaknesses. All predators need water. All animals follow patterns. All creatures can be outsmarted if you watch them long enough and think hard enough. He paused, and if we couldn't beat them through cleverness, we simply didn't quit. We kept trying new methods until something worked. Cormath stepped back. His claws retracted slightly. This is why the council invited your species. You are not what we expected, Taman nodded. No, we're not. And I think that bothers you. Because every species here got to the top of their world the same way, through physical power, through being the biggest and strongest. You all understand that. It makes sense to you. He gestured to himself, to his small frame and soft skin. But humans got to the top through a different path. And you don't know what to make of us. You don't know if we're dangerous or not. The hall remained silent. Every predator there felt something they rarely experienced. Uncertainty. Thexal clicked her mandibles together. Are you dangerous, human? Taman's smile never changed. But something shifted in his eyes. Something old and patient and absolutely unwilling to stop. That depends, he said quietly, on whether you're our friend or our food.